Hey everyone. So we're continuing our little mini series of the experiences that we will do anything to avoid when our whole understanding of self is of something and someone that is independent and separate and isolated, that has to somehow be someone, defend itself, boost its identity. And we're looking at how those unwanted experiences, when they do happen, can take us deeper into the suffering, or they are the bridge out. And today we're looking at the experience of other people thinking things about us that we don't want them to think, or the experience of being embarrassed, of not meeting the image that we want to portray. And it's a really interesting one, this one, because the roots of it are very logical. They're very healthy in a way, because the baby is born into a community. It depends 100% on its caregivers. And as it grows, it still continues to depend on other people around it. There's no possibility really that the human mind body is independent, can survive without any interaction and support from other people. And so the desire to be included, to have the role within the community, to not be isolated, to not be ostracized, is a very natural, logical, sensible desire. Now, the problem is for us is when that desire to or that drive to survive within the community gets transferred onto the image of what we think we are. So rather than it being the simplicity and sort of basic truth of life in a form, in a mind body, that mind body needs and thrives within a social group, what happens is that whole survival drive gets confused with this idea of myself and of how I need to be perceived, of what I need in order to be okay. And we can see the difference because it actually has nothing to do with survival, really. But it has everything to do with shame and insecurity and fear. So an example might be when, in my days of public speaking phobia, an enormous element of that phobia was what people would think of me when I messed up speaking in public. And so the moment, I was working in a, ironically, well, no irony, of course, like, obviously I was working in a public relations company. And if I was told I had to do a pitch or a presentation to staff, the terror of that, and the instant projection of me standing in front of an audience, like trembling, fainting, unable to speak, and what the humility of what would everyone be thinking about me. That's instantly where my mind went. And that has nothing to do with physical survival, does it? It has nothing to do with really having the needs met to continue life in that form. It really doesn't. It's survival of a very fragile idea of myself. And that's the thing that creates this enormous suffering. And the more insecure we feel, the more shamed we are, the more fragile we are, the more survival of this idea of ourselves seems vital. And so when we're in a situation where we're being confronted, we're being insulted, or there's indifference, or there's something going on that challenges our sense of self, our sense of being. In that moment, the intensity of the reaction isn't coming from strength, isn't coming from stability, it's coming from absolute fragility. And it's coming from this sort of life and death feeling that this is threatening the very core of me. And it's not. It's threatening the very core of believed separation. So that threat, which triggers the sense of ourselves as separate, instantly reinforces separation. And so when we're thinking other people don't respect us or they don't value us, we're instantly in more and more separation. And the suffering in that, we get more needy, we get more vulnerable, more fragile. We feel worse, we're more tense, we're more stressed, and we need more in that space. As everything is sort of plummeting, we're needing more and more and more, and we're not going to get it because we're a bottomless pit in that moment. And so what we can see now is that suffering is saying, well, come back to reality, because really nothing is under threat here, really nothing. There is still life, there is still a body, there is still awareness, there is still intelligence operating. Nothing is under threat. And the irony is that in that space in which the suffering shifts all experience back to the place of total stability, which is the infinite absolute that we really are, that doesn't ever change, will never change. From that space, from that reality, from that truth, now there's a different way of interacting with other people. There's a different sense of what's true, of what's needed. There's less and less projection of our own insecurity and shame onto other people. We're not imagining what other people are thinking of us. From that vulnerable space, we might be asking them, we might be telling them, just this is how things look to me. Is that true? And so it's a shift from projection to reality, from instability and insecurity to ultimate stability, from belief and delusion to sanity, all through suffering. It's the suffering that takes us deeper into the survival of an idea that can never be secured, this idea of me as separate, of all those layers of vulnerability and fear and shame and insecurity. It can never be, there will never be enough control or attention, praise, promotions, never will be enough to stabilize that, because it's unstable, it's inherently unstable. What is stable is the space that gives rise to that, is the life that we are, the intelligence that we are, the awareness, the consciousness, the beingness. That's stable. and nothing else is true. Yeah, yeah. All right. Lots of love. Bye.